Does it still feel vulnerable?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the amount of courage, if I can reflect back the amount of courage that you're feeling vulnerable and doing it still, I feel like it's a really big deal.
Yeah. I need to sit with that a lot more in appreciation um for that because I'll have moments where I'm just like I really want to speak to this and I'm gonna do this. And then they sit in my drafts for so long. And then but I also don't want to be a cog to the algorithm in a sense because I just want to be there like authentically.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had at first, I was like, oh, okay, let's do the little voiceover, silly talk over memes stuff or like reels. And they didn't feel good at all. I just felt
Mm.
stupid. And um, but that was me like trying to make this page and like trying to figure it out. But I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. And speaking with my therapist and stuff, we were just like, be you.
Welcome to the Deeper Awareness Podcast, where we delve into the depths of our inner selves, uncovering authenticity and transformation. Join us for enlightening conversations on breathwork, self discovery, and the profound journey within. I'm your host, Josh Perry, joined by the delightful Hannah Oxley. Let's begin.
And we have beautiful Meg with us.
Yeah,
So
I'm
excited
honored
to
to
have
be
you
here.
here. I followed you on Instagram like a while ago. I've been on this. I noticed one day that I followed like 3,000 people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like why? Like, how am I even getting, like, who knows the algorithm is giving
Mm,
me certain things. So I'm like on this like unfollowing spree. And then every time there's a new round of pause breathwork people, I get a bunch of follows or I start following other people. And so I'm like very uh, conscious about who I'm following. And I like as soon as I saw some of your reels, I was like, I need to follow this girl. I need these messages from her. So you are one
thank
of
you.
my favorites by
Oh,
far.
thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And is
still
it
learning that.
true? Did Josh told me that did Mel Robbins repost one of yours?
I had commented on stuff and she was writing, like, we were going back in the comments.
Oh,
So
cool.
I was like, oh, like, I
She's so
actually,
amazing.
I love her. And I've actually had a couple. So I was like, personally, like, doing like screenshots and like saving them for myself to be like, ah, like, it was just like a little moment. Not that I was like pedestaling, but it was
Right,
just like, ah, there's a reach. There's my reach.
Mm.
Like,
right.
so,
And that we're all on that even playing ground. Like, and you, as that's what I love about that. Um, can I find my words today? That Instagram, just in general, of that platform. Like, you can talk to, if sometimes I've messaged Kathy Heller and she's answered me, and I'm always like, oh,
ah,
but same thing. Like,
ah,
I'm not trying to put them up on a pedestal or anything, but it's like we're all in this space. We all get to be here. And it's such a gift to be present with. And those two people in particular, Kathy Heller and Mel Robbins, are such, grounding, down to earth people that I'm sure they would say the same thing, that we're all just people
yeah. All,
trying
and
to
she,
spread the same
yeah,
message.
all our own like light and beacon that we're trying to spread out into the world. I was listening to her this morning.
Yeah. Love that. Also, if you want to take a second to just introduce yourself of however that feels right for you, and we'd love to hear.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Meg, and I am part of, well, I am the owner of Rediscovering Breathwork. I developed that after the cohort at Pause and sharing that time with Josh. And it was more uh, coming to that as rediscovering me after like 2 years of a lot of um, medical health and a lot of journey through that um, and life. journeys coming through, and it was just the rediscovering. And so that's where it started. And then it's developed from there of just trying to be mindful each day. Um, but I am a mom, stay-at-home mom, and I do pause breath work and breathing practices on my own, and everything just from my home and or from my car.
I love that. Beautiful.
So we like to hear people's stories, their journey, and um, so deeper awareness is the name of the podcast. It's the self discovery, it's the spiritual awakening, it's the journey within, and so we'd love to hear your journey. Just how life looked as you were going along, and then for you, what that looked like. It sounds like there were multiple things that happened, and then I just love the idea of rediscovering. I think that speaks a lot to me, you know, and it's been an inward journey for me to rediscover and to uncover and to throw away conditions and beliefs that weren't mine. And so, with all of that, just start us off wherever makes sense for you so that we can understand you.
Okay, real quick. And I think more so it was the starting off point was the medical journey, finding out a lot of times being gaslit, medically gaslit a lot. Um, and not everyone's like that. I found a great group of doctors and a great team. Um, but it was really hard, especially with women's health. And um, I was just having a lot of issues, fluctuations of weight, but I was losing my hair. I was like, my skin was bad. I wasn't eating, and then I was throwing up. It was off and on, and then it was like, wow, even doing that, I wasn't even losing weight. It was a lot, and figuring out and just knowing this was when I was starting to be like, oh, well, the world says I'm fine, or the world says this and this, or I should be feeling this way, and I'm not. Um, I had this knowing that I was starting to listen to that my body was like, something's not right,
Mm.
like something's off. And I was like learning to hear that and learning to become my own advocate. And damn, that can be scary, especially when you're like, I didn't go to medical school. Um, but then starting your own research and then trying to find what it could be, it led me to finding out that I had hypothyroid and that I wasn't getting my numbers checked properly, and to see how bad they were on some of the scales because you'll only be measured like some doctors just do like two of them and they don't do the whole scale. And then to find out from there um, that I had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that gave a lot of answers as to so many more things in my past, um, birth losses, or like regularity, hypothyroid, weight fluctuations, the whole nine. And it's not even um, one thing. There's so many things that could be, but if they're overlooked. Um, but to really start advocating for that was when I started to find my own like inner megaphone in a sense, and to be like, I hear you. Like I know I'm gonna fight for the right tests, or I'm gonna listen to what my body told me. Like, oh, everyone's like, oh, you should be fine with this, but then I wasn't feeling fine, or eating a certain way. It wasn't right for my body and for my metabolism and all that stuff. No one's one cookie cutter, right? So to really feel into that and listen to my own like inner ingredients, I guess, um,
Mhm.
is what really started to lead my path. And it also led to a lot of answers, but also led to a lot of like some other surgeries and exploratory and going through. And so, and then redefining myself that way and being a mom, but then lots of scars on my stomach. from so many surgeries and removals and stuff, and embracing that. And that led to me starting to really find myself and my voice, and to then share that with other women who didn't feel seen, especially in like the medical way. And with that, that led to finding my own inner tribe, and to people who I could go to and talk to when I really didn't feel good or didn't feel right. Um, and then from there, that led me into with my therapist doing more breath work. And I was always drawn to it, but didn't know why for the longest time. But my mom had worked in anesthesia back in the day, and she was always doing like kind of guided hypnosis with me, even when I had anxiety. So I was finding comfort when I was coming back to breath work, and I was like, this is what allowed me that release. Um, so that was, it was like it was there. So like how we had discussed where you're rediscovering, so I'm rediscovering that Meg that did feel the goodness, but I'm also finding the parts that were like, that wasn't me, and I tried it, it didn't fit, but also finding my own path within it, and that's what led me to pause. Um, and also during that time, like right before pause, but I was doing breath work just on my own. But I also had, this one gets hard. I found out that I was pregnant, but it was unviable. And so, and I was also really becoming healthy again, and immediately was getting so ill, like deathly ill. And I didn't know why. And that's when we found out there was just, it was not going well, and had to do a tfmr. And these are hard to talk about, but a termination for medical reasons.
Mm.
And especially with my past with speaking to women's health, and a lot of that, it was trying to find my tribe in that again, because a lot of them aren't heard or seen. And so doing that was really what led me to be like, I have to go, and this is my path, and led me to find my like really true inner healing and self-discovery. I feel like that's a whole other episode that day, um, and how that day went. Um, but yeah, that was a life-changing moment, and one I sit with every day. I don't say I have regrets, but I have heaviness.
Mm.
That's going to be a rock that's always going to be with me, that I hold, grief, and I'll always have that. But um, it's also, I look to it as not a burden of weight, this grief, but it's also its own like igniting flame
Mm.
that keeps me going. And I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for my loss, and I'm doing it for the future Meg, and to be the mom to my daughter. And because she could have lost me. And so that was really eye opening too. And just doing it for others to also know that they're not alone on that. But it's just been it's a weight you learn to feel.
Mm.
That, and that's what led me to finding my own path and creating rediscovering breathwork.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing the space. It's getting better to talk about. Some days it's not. But,
Yeah.
and those ebb and flow.
Because there's so many layers to that. I resonate with the medical stuff myself because I was sharing this with Josh just recently about how, like, you trust that doctors are telling you exactly what you should be doing, and becoming your own advocate. It sounds simple, but it is so not. It's so hard to stick up for yourself, and because you've put all of your trust into what the doctors are supposed to know and everything, and then really pushing and almost having arguments with them is coming from I'm grew up just being a yes, like whatever you say, sir, and whatever, and people pleasing and all that stuff, to having to try to convince them of your own body when they're not listening. And that is on its own the most frustrating thing. And so there's just so many layers underneath that you clearly continue to keep fighting through. So I honor you for all of that and coming out on the other side and having all that strength and wisdom.
Thank you. It gets heavy when you're trying to be heard, especially when it's like medical. And you're already like, you're not at your best and you have chronic illness. And so when you are speaking, you are like, okay, this is the flame that's coming out, and this is what's igniting me, and this is going to stay true, and just let that stay. And it's like authenticity. You know, within your own self, like even that's when you start to hear that little inner intuition, just letting you know. And yeah, you're your biggest cheerleader, even on days when you don't feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I look back to that time where I was so sick, and with so much gratitude, because I didn't know I was so disconnected from my intuition until I was forced to notice it and listen to it. But it's just such a building of that relationship of like, is that what I want? Is that my intuition? Is that what the doctors are trying to say to me? Trying to identify where all those different voices are coming from, and then just knowing your own truth and sticking with it. Yeah. And then finding community, because it's like, you don't realize too, like I was going through life just thinking I was fine on my own, living life, and didn't realize how much I needed community. And it's like you unfortunately have to go through those darkest depths to realize what's important in life. And community is one of those big, important things.
Yeah, it's like the dark depths, but then you see who's reaching out to get you out of like that mud. Okay, I wasn't alone. There were others who saw me on the other side, and yeah, you still have your own mud path, but you have others that walk with you. So
exactly.
With the gaslighting, what did that look like, and what did that feel like, and was that part of, because I think we can all relate in different aspects of life this happening, and then could you speak us through that to where you finally got to where, because at some point you have to determine, oh, this is my truth and what he's sharing or she is not accurate. Can you just kind of talk us through that?
definitely. I right when you said the gaslighting, and can you speak that? Learning like parts work, that part in me was like, yeah, go speak up about that. Like, and I was like, I know, like I hear you. We'll talk. But like that little part in me was like, oh, like I still have a grudge on that one. And I'm like, yeah. But it I had to speak to that for a moment, just to let them know that they were heard. But it was, yeah, just being told, like and I know people and their bodies, they fluctuate, especially women, hormonally wise, and then especially when you put on the pill and whatnot. But I had gained just to a point where I was not, I was like, I feel like unhealthy. I don't even know how this just happened. And a doctor was like, well, it's just how you're going to be. Look at the rest of the people in your family. And I was like, but the rest of the people in my family aren't like this. So that's where I was like, first off, like, okay, I am going to look at hereditary, and I am going to look at that and see that's not matching. And so I left them pretty quickly. Um, but then when I just speaking to it was just feeling not heard for a really long time like that. And, or it was, oh, okay, just work out and eat this. It's like, okay, I did. I did. And I logged it and everything to the T to where it developed an eating disorder.
Mm.
And a lot of people also with PCOS um, aren't seen that way because you will develop an eating disorder because of how you're trying to be told. So that was also something that I was struggling with, but I don't look the part of someone who has an eating disorder. Um, but that's not true. And that was a whole thing trying to battle as well. Um, and then just I guess I'm Gen X meets millennial, Zennial, I guess, but with the way the world was back then too, trying to fit and meet that norm. Um, that's even how doctors were trying to shape you. Like I had to look one certain way, and it wasn't the exception of inclusion I'm 4'11". Like I only have so much for where things to go. So, but I have a sister who's 5'8". And so it's like if she's got longer, we're gonna eat the same meal, but it's gonna be different because of metabolism. And to not be heard that way too was really hard. And um yeah, you just learn to just go from it went to a point where I was going from appointment to having another appointment already ready at another place for a second opinion or a third opinion. Not that I wanted it to meet my standards, but I wanted to hear other options that I didn't feel were just being fed from figure one,
Mm.
and that's it. And so doing that allowed me to be like, okay, I can hear opinions and um, degrees of other ways that they want to help me and not it being one set way because that's what that one thinks. Which then led me to be like, I can build my own team that's actually hearing me and that is okay to do. Um, and then even during that time, and I was a people pleaser. So it was like I would print out everything and show them like this is da da da, or ask, I need more of these blood tests done. I want this one checked. They're like, why? Like, because this doesn't feel right. Like I'm losing my eyebrows. I'm losing my eyelashes. That's not normal. So something like that, something that minor, um, to speak to that and to fight for it starts to allow that little part of you being like, yeah, like standing with you, like you have your little groupie inside, helping you, and it starts to get better and easier. It's still hard when you're like, and it gets really defeating, but some days I'm like, oh, I didn't feel heard. All right, well, then tomorrow we're going to sit with my body and see what it says. And then tomorrow, and then I have the proof and I'll document it and stuff like
There's so much here, um, and I'm hearing this masculine uh, way of being and thinking from the medical whatever, where you're going to them to be fixed ultimately.
that.
And so that's kind of, as a man, I'm like, that's my job. I'll fix you. And then you're saying you weren't heard. And Hannah and I on previous episodes have talked about all these universal human needs, and that a lot of times it feels like the physicians or the doctors or the lab people are trained into just working from their brain,
Mm,
and there's no heart. And it feels like we have that backwards when especially somebody coming where they're feeling vulnerable, uncertain, and lost.
And ill. Just like I remember just feeling so sick and just like desperate for relief and with all those
mhm.
things. So sorry, yes.
No,
On top of all that.
So if in medical training, should there be like an empathy class, where it's
Mm,
like hear them first, like when they come in, say, oh my gosh, this must be so troubling, this must be so challenging. Can you share like what's going on inside your heart as you're trying to find these answers? I wonder
Well,
how much just healing takes place from that, where you feel seen, where you feel understood. Am I
yeah.
crazy?
No, you're not crazy. Well, there's
no.
the phrase bedside manner, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Hmm.
you're supposed to be able to comfort people. And I am actually going to see my holistic doctor right after this. And every time I leave there, I just feel better just being in her presence. So I fully agree and believe that you can just feel better by somebody listening to you and hearing what you're going through. Because when I've been trying to find a primary care person forever because I just keep going through them. Like I can't find the right one because I go in there and they just have the list and they're trying to check you off. And I just want to sit down where somebody is actually like, how are you doing today? Like looking at you in your eyes instead of just like trying to go through now. Do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you like all these things that you all of a sudden already feel shame because you're like, I smoked some pot like last month, like
Yeah.
whatever, you instantly feel shame. So you don't feel open and comfortable enough, safe enough to actually express what you're there for, what you want to ask for help for.
Yeah. Very much so. And like speaking to that, where you're like, oh, you checked off this, or I checked off that, I did this. Well, you said you like moderately drink. Well, that may be why you're tired. I'm like, but I didn't till like a wedding like 3 months ago. Like, and it's so it's like stuff like that that you're trying to, and I'm like, oh, like with what we've learned to just be present and like hold that space. Like it's almost like an absorption of taking in what someone said to be like, okay, we're gonna feel that together and figure out
Mm.
what that is. But instead it's not that. It's like, oh, I heard one thing, I can mark that off. Like, oh, I can hear one thing and then I was never heard.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels layered here. Like we're not
Mm.
bashing the doctors. It seems like a societal problem that we're living from our minds so much that we don't know. We've lost the ability to connect on a human level and to truly hear. And I would guess from that place of connection and community and hearing and safety, intuition of the doctor and of the patient would probably work in tandem to come up with a solution specific to you or me. But then money comes into it too.
Mm. Hmm. And lack of study, especially to women.
Okay. Can you talk more about that?
A lot of the studies as well have mostly been done on men.
Mm.
So there's so much that's still being figured out. Like there's so much to just go on about endometriosis
I was just going
that
to
is
say that.
that is still one of my true best friends. She is an endo warrior and speaks to it, and uh, she's part of my light. She's part of the ones that like reached out in the puddle of mud. Um, but there's just so much unknown. And then they'll be like, oh, with this, like, you think you, and that's still why I have a lot of scars because my one doctor still thinks I could be like suffering from endometriosis, but you need a skilled eye to see it.
Mm.
I mean, it could be, and it's not just in your uterus. It can be in your colon. It could be in my one doctor said he saw it in the brain. So it's stuff like that. You have to be able to see it, and so you need an endo specialist, preferably, to be able to find it. And it's hard to be seen. It's hard to get in, and it's not that so many doctors do have the heart and the love and they want to give, but then you throw in insurance, and then you throw in all the legalities of just trying to get through to get that. It that in itself becomes defeating sometimes more than just the gaslit
Mhm.
feeling. Because you're like, why? Like,
Yeah. It's like you need a referral in order to see this person. And if you don't have the referral, then you can't see them. And it's just like,
and
and
it's
I,
not until 9 months.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
So I've heard this idea of sacred rage. Do you know about this?
Mm-mm. Not off the top of my head.
So I'm not the sacred rage expert, just a caveat. And it feels like there's a piece if you blend anger with love, that's what sacred rage would feel like inside. And it would be this it's like enough.
Mm,
It's no, it's hear me. But it's from a place of I deserve this. It's this is my life. Hear me. And it's this sacred rage of, is that coming across?
yeah. And I can feel moments in my life where I felt that
Okay.
when you speak to it.
Okay.
So,
So if we gave your sacred rage part the mic right now, when it comes to being heard with your life experience and your journey, could does it feel comfortable to just let that part have some space to be heard right now?
mhm. Yeah, I had to sit with it. But um, yeah, it's like this authentic defiance that's not malevolent or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but just like a no, like like I am done. And that has definitely come up strongly within these past 2 years, um, with health and life. Um, yeah, family, even having that sacred rage come out to speak to family, partners. But it's knowing when to give the mic with your vulnerability, um, giving it knowing that it's all for protection and not a protection that's going to hide you, but a protection that's speaking for your path and for um, the higher you. It's almost like higher you's there just pissed off, like
Mm.
just kind of like, okay, like, but this isn't going to. I'm not going to fall for this anymore.
Mm.
Like you. I know that you're better than this. I know that you deserve better than this. And it's when that advocate inside comes to you and you're like, okay, you can advocate, but now you need to say that out loud now. And and that can get real scary, allowing it because it could teeter to rage. And it's knowing and staying in that true authenticity to not let something um, topple it either which way. But when you stay constant and true with it, that's where I think the sacredness just stays with allowing it and expressing it, but not diminishing it at all.
And it seems like some of that is speaking for those that don't have a voice yet,
Mm-hmm.
because we've all
For
been
those that,
there.
yep. For those that don't have a voice yet, for you that didn't have a voice before, um, yeah, it's like it's there leading. I analogies again, but it's there leading with like it's it's like torch, while you have those that can't speak it or those that are feeling it that don't know how to voice it yet, and little you back there catching up like, no, this is what I talked about. It's just staying with that torch and going through.
Do you remember a moment, or was it not a moment, where that voice started to gain momentum or courage or strength?
um when I first started my journey with my mentor and therapist, um I started to really hear it, um and like guided hypnosis, like went through like a cave, and I was like, ooh, there it is. um and also being a I'm a twin, and so a lot of times in life you're compared.
Mm.
So to finally feel like I'm going to speak for me, um, a lot of that was coming up into everything when I was hearing it. Um, and then when I had to have my termination was when it got real loud and um, led the charge. And I don't try to pick sides or anything. I grew up Irish Catholic, um, but there's beliefs there, that would not agree with what I had to do, um, and to just stay in my truth, knowing that women like me, and or even not my situation, but just that I that sacred rage had to be there and spoken, and mine was done the week before the Supreme Court made their ruling. So um, that next week, a lot, a lot turned, because I looked at my daughter and I thought, wow, I was going to die. And because of that decision. Um, and that really got the ball rolling on the staying true and knowing what was my truth and knowing what was needed and needed for my family, even though it was something I never wanted to make that decision for ever or wish on anyone. But knowing that I will still speak to my truth and not have others and or the world come down and degrade me for it. And I will hold my strength in that and my strength for others to not be degraded by that decision. So that's the loudest one.
Mm.
When it was like, like yeah, I'm gonna
Oh.
sit with that. Yeah.
You're a real gift, Meg.
Oh,
Real
thank
gift.
you, Josh.
So, Meg, with your Instagram presence, would you be open to just sharing? Because when I feel your reels, I'm like, oh, here's another one. And my heart opens, my heart softens, and I feel so seen by you. And you have no idea what I've gone through. Somehow your heart just knows what my heart needs to see or hear. And so I feel like there's a there's a gift in your essence that you're projecting outward, whether you know it or not. And I keep sharing your stuff and you're like, thank you. And I'm like,
I,
I don't think she knows what she's doing for the world.
I'm going to be like the messages. Thank you, Josh. um, yeah, they just kind of, uh, they started as just me being like, this was what I needed to hear. Um, so I may as well try to say it. Um, and they get me, some of them get me pretty emotional because I want to make it to where I'm not just like, hey, you guys, everyone's asking me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to be able to just be like you in the screen, but you're not there. Like, the screen's not there. Um, and I want to try to talk that way. And it's usually just a moment that has come across within the past few days is something that I'm like, oh, I could really speak to that.
Mm.
Like, oh, my heart got real full on that one. I'm gonna speak to this. Or just seeing it like with everything out in the world right now. And that has been in the world that sometimes we still don't see. Um, just speaking to it and being there, even if it's just for 1 minute or 29 seconds. Um, it allows that pause because you're always scrolling. So I hope that they come across as how you said, and that it's allowing someone to be seen and heard, even if it's just for that little brief moment, or even if it's just for the hey, or the you got this, which yeah, which I'm glad I did that because I have like 30 takes of me going, and I can never, and I'm like, oh man, I can't get my blink right or wink right. So yeah, I really appreciate those words about what you say about them. So thank you. Because
Mm.
sometimes the inner critic gets real loud.
Mm.
And it's like, like here she goes again, posting another reel. Um, but to me, there's something that I can do quick, not quickly, but be like, I can do this today. Like I'm a mom. I have this, so I have my schedule very limited at certain times of the week to where I can't take a call to help someone or anything like that. So it's moments like that where I'm like, okay, on the drive to Target, I feel this in my heart. We're gonna say it, and so I'll do that.
Was the first one, it feels vulnerable to, I mean, you're to the point now where you've done many. Does it still feel vulnerable?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the amount of courage, if I can reflect back the amount of courage that you're feeling vulnerable and doing it still, I feel like it's a really big deal.
Yeah, I need to sit with that a lot more in appreciation um for that because I'll have moments where I'm just like I really want to speak to this and I'm gonna do this. And then they sit in my drafts for so long. And then but I also don't want to be a cog to the algorithm in a sense because I just want to be there like authentically.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had at first, I was like, oh, okay, let's do the little voiceover, silly talk over memes or like reels. And they didn't feel good at all. I just felt
Mm.
stupid. And, um, but that was me like trying to make this page and like trying to figure it out. But I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. And speaking with my therapist and stuff, we were just like, be you. And so with that, but then sometimes, yeah, like how Mars in our class would say it's itty bitty shitty committee
Mm.
in there. And sometimes it's like, keep those in the draft. I'm not going to post that.
Mm.
And I'm like, but I want to. And I see the message in them. Um, And I was actually just talking about that with a friend earlier, that I'll post them on days that I had just had a huge cry, or not post, but I'll make them and then post it. Or I have like OCD and I'll skin pick. That's another thing I'm still struggling with. And so that'll be present in those. But to me, I'm like, that doesn't matter. It's the message that I want to get through. Um, and so I I love my page for that, for getting someone to feel seen or heard, even if it's just for that 30 seconds.
So I'm going to record one so that I can be inside your head too, as a cheerleader, that just how inspiring you have been. And I feel like I'll hear you say it and then I'm like, okay, yes, I'll keep going. And then like 6 minutes later, I've forgotten and I need to go back and hear it again. So keep doing it.
Mm.
That our minds get in the way. Our hearts remember, but it's like your heart speaking to my heart. Then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll keep going.
I'm glad that they land and that they reach that way, because it is my heart going out. So that's, yeah. So a lot of times I'll grab like my chest right here, and that's um it's me like sending my love out.
Mm-hmm.
How old is your daughter now?
She's gonna be 5 on Halloween.
Aw.
So yeah, I'm excited. She's I'm trying to figure out like what to do. Like, she's off and on like costume wise, and wants to do a costume, but I never know what she wants to be. But almost everything ends up being a cat. So it may be like a chicken cat or something like that, like where it's like it's a cat, but it's dressed as a chicken. Like, so, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, like her cars are like cat cars. Like they, instead of room, they've room, but then they go meow, and you're like, okay. Like, so.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Well, let's cover where people can find you.
Oh, I have my Instagram account, which is rediscovering Meg. It's rediscovering underscore Meg underscore. Um, and I also have rediscoveringbreathwork.com. That's my website where you can schedule or explore that.
And what's your preferred, as far as breathwork facilitating? What does that look like for you when working with people?
I really enjoy um, I really enjoy the meditative and the integrative as well. Uh, because it's sometimes when you like my reels, sometimes you just need that moment in the car. And so if you have that moment where you can just have a quick half an hour phone call, and continuously once we practice, it doesn't even have to be that long, but to be able to drop into the integrative breath for just a small amount of time, to just on your break. I really like those, to where it's just kind of helped clear some of the dust bunnies that were in your way that day. And it allows you to still see what you need forward. I really, really enjoy those. And I really enjoy group, and just seeing everyone just have their own releases and not still be tied to anyone.
Hmm.
Like, it's still their journey, still their journey.
I love that too.
I could see you being, just with all that you've gone through, I can see just the dots, connecting for you to hold space in a very uniquely and it feels sacred way.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm working on my path to hold more space, and be the space for others.
You're doing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we like to give our guests the opportunity to share a message with the world. So if you had one thing that in this moment you just wanted to send out, what would that be?
Hmm. I don't want to sound cliche, but it's like you got this. Like, and that just came out one day. I was sitting on the steps with my dog, and it just kind of came out, and I looked at my phone, and it's just, yeah, that one step at a time, and just, yeah, that's what I want to like send out to know that, and there's someone still back there going,
Mm.
like, and cheering them on. So you're just, you're not alone, and there is compassion in the world. Um, and to, especially now, seeing it, like Mr. Rogers says, like find the helpers. So, and even when you don't even see them, um, they are there,
Mm.
and and you are one also that to others that don't know it, and that there's so much love to give in everybody, and yeah, and you got it. You got the love inside you, and you got the love that people are giving you. So in so many more ways than one.
Yeah, it's all inside. Everything you need.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you. This was a real honor. Cherish this. Thank you for this. It felt cleansing,
Mm.
even though I do speak to it here and there. Um, but to sit with it and speak with it, and yeah, it's a it's a nice feeling.
There's something very powerful in sharing your story.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd love to have you back.
I would like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
anytime.
um I don't have the dates for anything coming up yet, but my story um it was selected to be in a book that moms all had part in writing a chapter. So I don't have any details on that being done yet, but they want to make it the world record of most authors in one book. And it's the story of moms and or just like motherhood in general. And so it's going to be with all races, religions, um, diagnoses, everything, adoption to loss, to birth, to like multiples. Um, and so my story will be in that, but I only could have like a little segmented amount to speak to. That's why I was like, oh, that's a cool to like talk about that day. Um, and so that's what that's going to be is that day, the decision and the day of it being done is going to be in that.
Mm.
But I don't have any other details on that.
Mm.
But when that gets closer, we're happy to have you on to kind of announce that, like the
Oh,
sales of
thank
the book
you.
or whatever.
Yeah, I'll have to find out more on that yet. At least I know everything's at the editor. That's all we
Mm.
know right now. So,
It's funny, I just got this came in the mail today. I'm in this woman's collective, and we were all asked to write our stories. I didn't feel ready to write mine, and I just felt like it wasn't, my story's not done yet. And
mm,
there was a lot of people who were putting their stories in, so I kind of just took a step back. But I just ordered my copy, and I just got it in the mail today. And so it's about like I think it's about 20 women all sharing their stories. So I think that is just so powerful, and I love seeing that more people are doing that because it's just like a couple pages per person, nothing too long, or but it's just so women coming together to speak their truth.
yeah, and just to know that when you flip through those pages, you won't be alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Exactly.
there's a part of me in that book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though I didn't write it, but they spoke to that too. And it's really, oh, I'm glad that you're in a collective that does that too.
Yeah.
That's,
Because we are all one.
yes, we are.
Hmm.
Very powerful. Yeah.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Deeper Awareness podcast, where the journey of self-discovery and inner growth continues to unfold. We hope this episode has ignited a spark within you and inspired you to embrace a more conscious and authentic existence by looking within. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming episodes, where we'll continue to explore the transformative power of breathwork and emotional healing. Continue the conversation and stay connected with us on Instagram. Follow at Deeper Awareness Podcast to receive daily inspiration, valuable tips, and updates on our latest episodes and offerings. We'd love to hear your thoughts and insights from today's show, so feel free to share them in the comments below or tag us in your posts. Your engagement and feedback mean the world to us as we strive to continue to create content that resonates and empowers our incredible community. Together, we can continue exploring the depths of consciousness, fostering genuine connections, and supporting each other on our transformative journeys. This episode is brought to you by You Belong Breathwork, your destination for transformative healing and self-discovery. At You Belong Breathwork, we believe in the power of breath to unlock the deepest parts of ourselves, leading to profound insights and a greater sense of connection and belonging. Whether you're seeking emotional healing, a deeper connection with yourself, or a path to authenticity, our breathwork sessions, retreats, and coaching programs are designed to guide you on this transformative journey. Our experienced facilitators are here to hold space for you as you explore the depths of your consciousness and discover the infinite potential within. Visit youbelongbreathwork.com to explore our offerings and download a free guided breathwork session. Thank you for being a part of our Deeper Awareness community. Stay connected, stay curious, and may you embrace your true essence with love and compassion. Goodbye for now, and see you in the next episode.